Garth Brooks is interviewed a number of times throughout it, and he looks great. And now, of course, when you have more money than Crozius himself, like, yeah, sure, you can afford these kinds of things, but I'm going to do you one better. He's not just a serial killer, he's a vampire. Hold hands and close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 223, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. And Paul, you come to us from the brink of death. So I'm especially grateful for your presence today, my friend.
I have my moments, my friend. I'm trying my damnedest.
So yes, Paul has COVID, so this show is going to be a little shorter than it might ordinarily have otherwise been, and I will be the one reading all the stories. So he is too much of a machine to take a break, but we're gonna try and preserve the man because we need him around for other stuff.
Yes, it's the bloody trains, I think.
That could be. I mean, it could be the fact that you spent the whole weekend in a teepee.
Well, it might be, but it was train chaos on the way home. It was a nightmare. Added an hour to my journey, which was a pain in the arse. And I got stuck in Reading for 40 minutes, which is exactly 39 minutes and 59 seconds longer than I wanted to be in Reading. But I will say that the train staff were wonderful. However, it was an amazing weekend. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yes, you were at the Strange Days Festival in, where was it held?
A wonderful little village called Honey Street. A venue called the Barge Inn, which is this big, beautiful old pub full of weird and wonderful decorations, all aliens everywhere and green men and crop circle paintings all over it and on the ceilings and everything. Smack next to a canal, looking across the valley to the White Horse, one of the chalk horses on the hills. And it was just amazing. It was brilliant. The staff were brilliant. Everybody involved in the festival was amazing. Guests were brilliant. I met so many people that I've only ever spoken to in person. So we had a bit of that. We won the quiz on the first night.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Oh, of course you did.
Yeah, of course we did. I wasn't losing that. Met some wonderful listeners. So if Charlie and Amber are out there, thank you for looking after me all weekend. And Jason and Kaylee and Peter and Lucy and Brian and John and Sarah and lots of other people. It was very odd. And yeah, it was just brilliant meeting so many wonderful, wonderful people. And of course, luckily for Brian Blessed, he got to meet me as well.
He can finally check that off his bucket list.
He can. Two Barnsley legends finally meeting again after 40 years. But yeah, no, we had a great time hanging out with Stu and Ruth from the 14 Times and Peter Laws and Richard Freeman and Jackie Tonks.
No, that is so cool, man. Well, congratulations on your first big festival. You've done speaking engagements before, but this must be the biggest one so far.
Yeah, there was about 300 in for mine.
Fucking A. Yeah. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, and I got a mum, an 8-year-old got his mum to tell me how amazing he thought my talk was. And he told her, oh, I'm going to listen to all his shows now. So I said, oh, you'll be all right. There's not much swearing. He said, oh, he's okay with that. He's 9. It's fine.
He's 9. No, that's all right. Well, kid, hey, welcome to the Ghost Story, guys. Sorry, you're going to learn some stuff.
I learned all my swear words in a week of joining junior school, so I'm within there.
If anything, he's got swear words to teach us.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, brilliant. We all had musical acts as well on each night, which was fantastic. And a big shout out to the wonderful Ruby Tingle, who was a brilliant singer who closed the festival down on the Sunday night. And lovely lady, her and her partner. And so, like I say, it was just so many lovely people there, mate. It was brilliant.
That's fucking awesome, man. Again, congratulations. I'm happy it went well. And like I've said before, Paul Bestel, he's on the come up. So watch this space.
Absolutely. I also just gave my talk and no questions. Thank you. Goodbye.
No autographs.
No questions. I'm telling you a story and that's it. Goodbye. And I was off.
I like it. Hey, always leave them wanting more.
I'd forgotten to take some water on it, and these new tablets I'm on just completely suck all the moisture out of my mouth. So I would have killed someone if they'd have asked a question, because it's like I've been gargling with sand.
Oh, no. Well, it works, though. Again, the air of mystery is always better than the opposite.
Yeah, and I did fall over the same fence twice.
Sober?
No.
There we go. Yeah,
my legs aren't as long as I think they are. And I thought the second time I'm not going to do that the second time, and I did exactly the same thing. Flat my ass. But I bounced straight back up, which impressed a lot of people. They said I got a lot of bounce back ability.
It's true. You're a nimble fellow.
I am. I just tend to lose my bearings a little sometimes when I'm a bit tiddly.
The greats have to have at least one weakness, Paul. Otherwise, they'll take over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yes, brilliant. And they're doing another one next year. It's been an absolutely massive success.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Well, the pictures I saw online looked incredible. They looked like so much fun. The bands and obviously the clips you sent me of Brian's talks just seemed like a hoot. He's always seemed like quite the character. So no, man, I am so excited for you. I think that is the coolest shit.
The other great thing about it was, I would say 99.9% of the people there were great. There was one random nutter just walking around who everybody found both frightening and amusing in his strangeness. Somebody says, I've just walked past the Portaloo and he's just come running out in his kecks. Where's his clothes gone? This is in the afternoon. Where's his clothes gone? Where are they?
You're at a festival called Strange Days? There are going to be some mysteries, Paul.
He had about 9 different outfits. I don't know where he was getting all these clothes from, because he just seemed to be living in a tree or something. I don't fucking know. It's very odd.
That was a Woodland sprite, is what you met there, and he was fucking with all of you.
Yeah, a Geordie sprite.
They got to come from somewhere.
Well, now we know. Now you know. There you Absolutely.
go. You learned some stuff here on the Ghost Story Guys.
It was just a lovely bunch of people, a lovely bunch of weirdos.
Those are the best kind.
Yes. My kind of people.
Amen to that, my friend. Amen to that. Speaking of weirdos, we had our own little milestone to celebrate over on Fear Daily. Brandon and I, we managed to hit 1 million downloads just ahead of our 1-year anniversary.
Marvelous.
So, yeah. So it was kind of a happy little surprise. The universe is healing. Nature is, well, not really. We're going to pretend like the news hasn't happened at all.
No.
As long as we ignore the news, nature is healing.
Yes, it is. Send some my way.
Healing nature? Yes. We'll do that on this episode, wherein we will be talking about the hauntings of my home province of British Columbia. Woo. This is one we decided to do, after we realized that looking at the hauntings of Vancouver, there is so much more out in the province at large. I am very excited to be sharing this with everyone. Because like I said, I grew up in BC. I spent the first 38 years of my life there, 39 years of my life there, and I still technically live there, even though I'm spend most of my time here in Ontario.
You don't look old enough to have spent that long there, mate.
That's the low resolution webcam for you.
Don't kill me yet, please.
Okay. My bad. But yes, on this episode, we're going to be telling stories from supernatural British Columbia. That is, in fact, I think that's the advertising slogan for the province. I don't think it's the provincial motto, but I think it's how they've advertised it on commercials for decades now, as far as I know. And it is a very supernatural place. We're only going to cover, as with many of these Canadian episodes, we're only going to be able to cover a fraction of the material available. But I think we have a great selection, from Sasquatch to hauntings to lights in the sky, to, in fact, an entire history of lights in the sky. It's almost mind-boggling how many UFO reports I found in the process of researching this show. So I think it's going to be a good one. But before we get there, we have to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do without you. So thank you. Thank you. For real, guys. Every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys and tells their friends about us. You help make us who we are, but patrons, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscribers are the ones who truly allow this great big machine to keep working, to keep our bills paid. So thank you. And while of course we'd like to thank every single person who supports the Ghost Story Guys, today we're going to thank our most recent subscribers. They are
Disco Fishaki.
Legit name me. Oh, okay. I think this is someone actually asking for a name. So you are
Gobble bobble.
Pedro Woolen Trousers. Pedro Woolen Trousers, I dubbed thee. Yep, that's what you get. You asked. And if you want us to come up with a nickname for you, you subscribe to Patreon. We will come up with a nickname. For this, our first host dubbed patron, you are Pedro of the Woolen Trousers. It is our pleasure to meet you.
Yes. And our last patron is Jennifer W.
Again, thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. We could not do this without you, so thanks to all of our paid subscribers. And if you want access to early ad-free episodes, bonus conversations between myself and Paul, extra spooky shows, our monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Or sign up to become a friend of the cabin via Apple Podcasts or YouTube. All right, so just before we get started, a few facts about British Columbia. It is the third most populous province in Canada, and it is the fifth largest. It is a massive place, which also includes a national park, which I believe is the size of Maine, or provincial park, I guess we would call it here. A provincial park, which I believe is the size of the state of Maine, much of which is untouched. It's so far north and so remote that most folks just don't go there. We also have an entire town, Kitsault, which is simply empty. Again, it's quite I think it's 10 hours to get up there, so it's one of those places where it's kind of protected by its remoteness. But we could do a whole show just on Kitsault because it is so very strange. An entire place built, furnished, and then left. Ghost towns, abandoned mines, Sasquatch stories, BC has it all. And on this episode, we're going to share with you as much as we can about that strange place. The Dark Men. When I was 6 years old, my mother got married to her second husband in the town of Oliver. We had moved in with him a while before and had everything at his house. I had a toy box with a music playing snow globe in it, and at night it would slowly play, even though nobody was touching it. There was also an attic at this house, and it had a square flat piece of wood that covered the access panel. A ton of times in the morning it would slide off, for no reason. One day I was laying on the couch and I felt a very sharp, piercing pain in my side. I was gasping for air. I couldn't breathe. I screamed as loud as I could and ran to my mom and family in the kitchen. When they looked, it was a deep fork-like mark just below my armpit. It was unexplainable, and nobody understood what was happening. They compared it to a fork, but the mark was too wide. I don't remember what they did after that, but my mom put a bunch of charms in our room to try and keep the bad spirits away, because she's very spiritual. Another encounter was that one night my mom got home from going to town, and my sister was sick. She was coughing, so my mother went to get her some cough medicine. My sister was lying on a mattress on the floor because my mom didn't want me to get sick too. When she sat up to get ready to take the cough medicine, she saw an apparition of a little girl looking through the books and toys I had in the cupboard on my headboard. The little girl then looked at her and vanished through the floor. She told me about the encounter the day after. When I was in grade 4, I always saw this gray cat following me everywhere. When I was in the basement, upstairs, walking in the hallway, wherever. It would always brush past my legs, the way cats weave through your legs with their backs. I wasn't very scared because I knew it didn't pose any threat. A couple nights I would awaken to find a tall, dark girl standing at the end of my bed, so I slept with my sister. A couple nights later, I woke up to find a man looking through the textbooks and clothes my sister had on her bed. He looked up at me and vanished. When my oldest sister was young, her and my mom lived in a little green house. She was always playing by herself and saw shadow people. She would leave teddy bears in the corners for them to play with because she thought they were lonely and wanted to play with her. One day she saw this little man who came up to her, touched her nose, and vanished into thin air. She screamed and ran to my room. I'm now older, and I live in a different house. I have premonition dreams once in a while, and other times I have really scary dreams. For example, one day I had a dream I was running from this tall, dark, hooded man wearing a cloak. I was in a type of hospital, but there were angels at the front desk, dressed as doctors. They hid me in a bathroom after he asked around and got mad at them because they told him they didn't know where I was. He got aggressive, and soon after he grabbed me by the arm and took me outside. It was dark and rainy, and he pulled out this weird-looking stick and pointed it at me. Once I dreamt that this man was following me and wanted to kill me, and was everywhere I went, knew everywhere I went. I've had tons of weird encounters like these, but I've learned to ignore them, because bad spirits try and scare you to get you vulnerable and make you scared of them. When they feel powerful, it gets worse, and that happens when you're scared of it. I've chosen not to be scared of them, and in doing so, overpower them. And the thing I liked most about this one, Paul, is the positive spin this person had on it at the end. I love that they basically said, like, yeah, I see them and they try to mess with me. I'm not going to let them. And I really like that, because I think we do have that power.
Yes, very good. It's nice to see someone be proactive in dealing with this and sort of saying, no, I'm not having any of your nonsense. Not today, sir. Not today.
I don't know how I forgot to bring this up in the intro, but we had something like that happen on our last recording session, did we not?
That was so strange.
So, folks, again, we did not, can't believe I forgot this. So after we recorded the last episode of Talk Spooky, we had finished all the recordings. Paul and I were just shooting the shit about what we're going to do on the weekend, our plans. And you looked up from your phone. Now, what did you say?
I said, who's there?
Yes, right. And of course, I live here in Ontario. I live alone. I never have guests over during the recording because that would be an insane thing to do. My apartment's very small. It would be hard not to get the noise on there, and that would annoy the shit out of me. And so I told Paul that. And Paul, what did you tell me?
I've just seen a lady in white walk behind you.
Yeah, sleep tight.
And then I said, see you later.
Yep, ta-ra, fucker.
Good night.
Just jet-packed out of my life.
I was off.
Holy shit. Yeah, so now what's bizarre about is I didn't feel anything. I didn't hear anything because there was no sense whatsoever. But when I looked at seeing the reaction on your face, you're either the best actor I know, or you saw what you saw. And I even asked you though. I said, like, are you fucking with me? And he's like, no, this is what I saw.
Okay. I genuinely thought I'd seen somebody walk behind you.
What's crazy is there's nothing behind me. Like if you look at the videos we post on Instagram or YouTube Shorts, you'll see that behind me there's 3 movie posters, which sometimes rotate depending on my mood. And then to my right, there is in the back you've got an air conditioner, but which is off. So there's nothing moving, but you saw something moving behind me.
Oh yeah, clearly, yeah. I saw it as it was sort of where the Nixon poster is. When I looked up, and they just kind of walked from there out of shot.
So they went from the Nixon poster towards the window or towards the couch?
Towards the window.
Fascinating. So whether this is just my perception of this or not, I noticed that, well, I had a crazy ass sleep that night. Last night. Yeah, right? Fuck. I was texting Nick like, could you believe this shit? You know what he just did to me? That English prick.
I feel so angry, I'm going to send him a special beef stroganoff made in Australia.
That's right.
With special mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. And not the kind I would have put in there ordinarily. Not the fun kind.
Not the fun guy, eh?
Get out. But yes, so anyways, last night I noticed that there was a real kind of a real vibe. I was sort of getting settled in for the night. I was going to watch a horror movie, night before last, I was going to watch a horror movie. And all of a sudden, this corner, it always seems to be in this corner when it does happen, where my computer is, it got too dark. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'm not watching a horror movie because I don't know if I can, watch something spooky and then sit here the whole time staring at the growing ball of darkness in the corner. But instead, what I did is I walked up to it and I said, hey, look, man, if you're going to be here, that's fine. But you can't do this looming shit because I have to live. If you want to stay, whatever you are, whoever you are, I don't have a problem with that. But you cannot do this Freddy Krueger nonsense. And you know, man, it actually settled down. So there's something to this.
Certainly makes more sense than the theory about Garth Brooks being a serial killer.
Yes, I didn't have time to watch that whole thing when you sent it to me today, but humor me. Tell me this theory.
So somebody's gone through his entire career and his life. And wherever Garth Brooks is, either as a student, a person, or on tour, people either get murdered or disappear.
Fascinating.
And if you go through it, they explain exactly why. Like, people disappeared from his high school, his university. He bought a property and several people disappeared. Whenever he's on tour, people disappear from where he plays. And so this theory is that he's really a serial killer. It's a bit like the... is Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote actually the world's greatest serial killer? Because she turns up in places, somebody dies, and then she solves it by framing someone.
Now, I'm finally understanding Garth's song, I've Got Friends in Low Places. Those low places are shallow graves in the woods.
Well, he's got a massive acreage, hasn't he?
Oh, God, he's got so much money, I'd be surprised if he didn't own the state of Montana.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's watch the clip, it's quite funny. But also, when you get to the end, you're like,
Well, I got to say, Nick and I watched that Billy Joel documentary, And So It Goes, which is really, really, really good, by the way. Although if you want to keep your respect for Billy Joel, just watch the first half. But Garth Brooks is interviewed a number of times throughout it. And he looks great. And now, of course, when you have more money than Crozius himself, like, yeah, sure, you can afford these kinds of things. But I'm going to do you one better. He's not just a serial killer. He's a vampire.
Well, I suppose technically it's still murdering people, just in a different way.
Oh, yeah, this isn't me excusing him. I don't think this is a good thing.
Good.
But I do think we've cracked this case wide open. Garth, we're on to your ass.
Absolutely. More news as we get it.
That's right. Oh, man, subscribe to our newsletter. Only $5 a month. The Wood. I'm from a rural forested area in lower central British Columbia. My parents built a house in this area when I was 5 years old, and we moved in shortly thereafter. It is a very rural area, with only one neighbor in sight across the valley. From the time we moved into that house, I had recurring night terrors about aliens or entities trying to get in. They got bad enough that my mom now says she should have taken me to see a psychologist about it. The night terrors ended when my parents adopted a German Shepherd, who subsequently wore a path with the number of times he would patrol our house. The feeling of something wrong in the woods by one side of the house still remained. Only one window in the house faces that direction, and there is often a feeling that I could not look out the window, like there's a warning. When in that area of the yard at night, I could never force myself to look in that direction. The dogs would often growl and raise their hackles looking that way, but would behave differently than when it was a wild animal. When I adopted another German Shepherd, she took over the trail again after the previous dog passed, and it felt like the energy subsided to some degree. The land still feels bad when I visit now years later, like something is always watching and lurking, but it still can't pass the property line for whatever reason. I get nightmares about an entity trying to get into the house there still, and it's only bearable when I have my dogs with me, who seem to ward it off. My Schnauzer only helped a small degree, but when I got my Great Dane, the presence felt like it withdrew more. She also paces around the house and does not like that area of the forest. I have previously had experiences with ghosts and shadow people in other areas, and it felt nothing like this entity. This entity feels much older, inhuman, and harmful, but like it has rules it has to follow, and as long as we didn't look at it or interact with it, it can't come closer. When it was dark, I would have the feeling I needed to close all the blinds because it was trying to see in, but I would turn my head away so that I did not look into the dark while I was closing the blinds. After my grandfather passed away, I had an extremely vivid dream that an entity pretending to be him came up the stairs of the house and looked at me. In the dream, I stopped him from coming in, and immediately woke up in a cold sweat. It felt like the same presence. I spoke to a pagan witch previously who said there was something on the land, a dark territorial presence. Another person said she and some teenagers were chased through the woods by a bipedal entity that she knew they could not look at. She said it sounded like the same sort of entity. My parents still live there, and the property belonged to my grandfather before them since the 40s or 50s or thereabouts. My mom says she can feel something watching her sometimes. My dad doesn't believe in such things and would never admit to anything. All I'm going to say here, Paul, is what do I keep saying about the fucking woods? No one listens. We left them for a reason, man. We used to climb in the trees and we thought, this sucks. There's something wrong with this place. So we climbed down from the trees and then we lived among them. And we thought, no, this sucks too. We need to go build coffee shops, bars, and strip clubs. And we built them and we shouldn't have to look back. And yet we do.
Yes. I'm always creeped out by these people that have no curtains in their windows that face the woods, especially in certain states like Oregon and Washington and Canada. I mean, yeah, nature's brilliant, but yeah, there's things in the woods and they can see you better than you can see them.
That's it, man. A friend of mine used to house sit for a guy who he didn't have any curtains along the entire back wall of his house, and he had giant windows because it faced out over the river. But I mean, people can still walk on the fucking riverbank, man. I just don't have that kind of confidence in the privacy of anywhere. I could be up in the International fucking Space Station, and I'd be putting blankets over the windows.
Well, you have to do that in case that thing that bothers Chinese astronauts when they're in space comes knocking.
Thing that bothers Chinese astronauts?
Yeah, some astronauts, when they've gone up for China, they can hear as though somebody's knocking on the outside.
Oh, of course. I didn't realize that was Chinese astronauts. I've read about that,
yeah.
But I wasn't aware that was fascinating.
Yeah, there's footage of it.
Really?
Yeah, they recorded it. You can hear it like clang, 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 and then it stops. Clang, clang, clang. No, thank you.
No.
When are you coming? When are you back? How long have I got left up here? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm going back now. You can either get in the tube and come with me, or you can stay out here forever. But I am going back because someone just knocked on the door in space.
Yeah, I'd take my chances on re-entering the atmosphere.
Oh, 1,000%. I would just like, you know what? Natural selection, choose me.
I'd make a spacesuit out of empty toilet rolls. That'd protect me from the atmosphere burn off.
That is genuinely terrifying. Like, I know, I've mentioned this on the show before, but there's the bit in one of Ranulph Fiennes' books where he talks about sheltering in Antarctica over the winter. And his wife, I think it was, I want to say Ginny. I read a bunch of his books back in the day, but she would hear footsteps in this shelter and she was alone, or they were alone, but it was unmistakably footsteps.
Well, we all know what that is.
Yes, but you should say it out loud so we can all laugh at the people who don't know.
It's what the American team blew up on that documentary about that Antarctic expedition that went horribly wrong.
Of course, yeah. I forgot about that great documentary, The Thing.
Yeah, it's a really good documentary, that. So, I mean, that's still there, wherever it is, waiting.
Guys, if you just fill your ears with noise and your body with $20 cocktails, you never have to hear any of this shit. I went into Toronto Monday, I think it was, and I wanted to try a new cocktail bar. So I went to this place called
Fancy.
Bar. Yeah. I went to a place called Bar Pompette, and I had two fancy cocktails, and then afterwards I caught a film called Scared Shitless. It is a Canadian film about a father-son plumber team trying to save a building from a marauding sewage monster. And you know what you can't hear when you're watching a guy scream as a latex monster rips off his nuts? Ghosts. You can't hear shit, and you especially can't hear ghosts.
Good advice.
It's what we do here on Ghost Story Guys. Speaking of things you wish you hadn't heard, this is another story that I managed to find, and this person, it's called 3 Times. And this person says that 3 times in my life, I've had the same woman approach me and talk to me. When I said nothing, she asked, "What's the matter, Aaron? Cat got your tongue?" Each time she was the same age/unchanged, and I was with 3 different family members. She had long dark hair, green eyes, and fair skin. The first time I was 3 years old in Oahu, Hawaii, in a hotel pool with my aunt learning to swim. The second time I was 9 years old with my cousin and brother on a beach along the Kamloops River in Kamloops, BC, Canada. The third time I was 14 years old on a beach in Maui, Hawaii, with my dad collecting puka shells. I haven't seen her since I was 15, and I'm 47 now. I was never afraid. I was more apprehensive and shy. My family members remember being in the places, but not the woman talking to me. Am I the only one? What could this be or mean? I'm curious to get your read on that one.
It's odd, isn't it? Especially when it stops at 15.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally you'll have stories about somebody meeting somebody who seems to know them and they've no recollection or know who they are at all. But for it to happen more than once and to be as specific as that is quite peculiar.
It reminds me a little bit of the person, my friend, who will see a guy in flannel when she's got a really bad fever, or at least used to when she was a kid. I don't know if she still sees him anymore. But when she was a kid, she would see this guy watching over her when she was really, really sick.
The usually cited red flannel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely in line with our usual flannel, with the usual flannel man thing, but only present when she had a fever. And again, seemed to be kind of like actively looking over her. She said he looked vaguely sort of South Asian and was wearing red flannel.
Well, I know who that is then.
Who's that?
That's Typhoid Mary's brother, Fever Fred.
Oof. Oof.
Where's this hook come from? Ah!
All right. Well, I hit Paul about the head with a wrench. We're going to take a quick break for some ads. UFOs from Cache Creek to Quesnel. From the UFO Journal of Brian Reinhardt, as published by UFO BC. 1968, Easter weekend. I decided to drive the approximately 800 miles north to see a friend of mine who'd recently moved to Dawson Creek. I left Vancouver quite late, and about midnight found myself driving through the mountains near Cache Creek. As I drove along the mountain crests, I noticed far off in the northwest a number of what appeared to be searchlights playing on the clouds. At the time, I thought there must be an airport over there somewhere. Later on, when I checked my maps, I found nothing but bush, and also realized that the lights I'd seen were not shining up at the clouds, but down from somewhere above. Shortly after passing Cache Creek, it began to snow, and I ended up driving for 18 hours. I found my friend, booked into one of the hotels in town, and passed out. She had the weekend off, so the next few days we spent touring the area. Jesus, I can't imagine what you'd tour in Dawson Creek for more than 3 hours, but what do I know? The third day I started back to Vancouver. The snow had all melted and I was cruising along at about 80 miles an hour. At sunset I was just north of Quesnel and had a large field on my right as I passed it. As I passed it, I noticed what appeared at first glance to be a white bird about the size of a herring gull. It took off from approximately 150 feet away and skimmed across the field at approximately 3 feet in the air on an interception course with my car. I stepped on the brakes and it passed through my headlight beams approximately 20 feet in front of me. It then climbed up at about a 45-degree angle and shot off up into the sky. As it passed, I realized it was not a bird, as the wings were fixed and not flapping. My foot came down a little harder, and soon I was cruising at 90 miles an hour. Hours later, I was back up in the mountains just south of Cache Creek. I'd not seen another car for hours, and I was still rolling along at about 90. All of a sudden, a brilliant white light shone down on me from somewhere above. It was like the light from a flashbulb, so bright I couldn't even see my own headlights, and from what I could make out, appeared to be a perfect circle, perhaps several hundred feet in diameter. I floored the gas and went up to about 110 miles an hour, but the light stayed right with me. After a minute or so, the light went back out. I could feel all the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and sensed that whatever it was still directly over my car. I wanted to stop and take a look, but since I was by myself and there was no other traffic, I continued to keep my foot in it. About 10 minutes later, the light came back on, and I got the distinct impression that whoever was behind it wanted me to stop. I went even faster. Just before I reached the Kanaka Bar restaurant, the light went out again. I came around a bend and found the restaurant right in front of me. A car had just left the restaurant, and I passed him doing about 120. He must have thought I was a UFO. A few miles further on, I came over the crest of a mountain and could see a long, steep hill in front of me with a curve at the bottom. Suddenly, my car lost all power, and I was flying blind down the hill. I was still doing close to 120 and had lost my lights, power steering, power brakes, everything. I put both feet on the brake pedal and pushed as hard as I could. I couldn't see the road at all as there were tall trees on each side of the road, and it was black. All I could do was try and keep the car heading straight. I kept picturing the road curving up ahead, but didn't have the faintest idea how close I was or even if I could make it at the speed I was still going. Without my power assist, the car didn't feel as if it was slowing at all. Just as I reached the bottom of the hill, my power all of a sudden came back on. Needless to say, I made the corner but didn't slow down until I reached the main Trans-Canada Highway with all its traffic. I owned that car for more than 5 years, and never before or after did I have any problems with it mechanically or electrically. The loss of power seemed to be their goodbye present, as I lost that feeling that they were sitting on my roof just shortly afterwards. I often read or see programs about people losing time during incidents similar to what I went through, but I don't think I was stopped. I was near Quesnel at sunset, which I'd guessed to be about 7 o'clock, and hit the Trans-Canada near Hope at about 2 a.m. I was just doing some calculations, and they don't work out. Quesnel is approximately 325 miles north of Hope, and at the speed I was going, I should have done it in about 3.5 hours, not 7. Maybe something did happen. I don't recall slowing down. Years later, when I first saw the movie Close Encounters, it brought it all back again, especially the scene where they were all up on the mountain watching the UFO approach above the clouds. When I came out of the theater after the movie, I didn't have the faintest idea where I was. Nothing seemed familiar, and it took several minutes for me to figure out where I was. Several years later, I asked some police officers if they might have had helicopters working in the canyon at night, and they said, not to their knowledge. So, I guess I'm left with a mystery.
So, Paul, this is one of the stranger ones on this episode. And I was really curious to get your take on it, because I don't know that I've seen anything quite like this. There are elements of this I've seen, which I'll mention after, but the sort of just on the whole, it seemed very odd.
I mean, I like the fact that it was only seeing Close Encounters 9 years later that kind of affirmed what their experience was, which is quite interesting because obviously, as I'm sure lots of people know, Spielberg did use a lot of UFO cases for a lot of scenes in that book. There are most of the pivotal sightings in most of the pivotal scenes in Close Encounters are based on real life UFO encounters that were in Blue Book.
I didn't know that, actually.
They're not just scripts. So the bits like where the police cars are chasing the lights and that breaks down, I think that's based on it's one from the 60s. The lights coming into the house looking for the little boy. That's based on a sighting. So most of the stuff that they come across in the film that leads up to Roy making his way to the mountain is all based on actual cases in the previous 10, 15 years prior to the filming of that.
Fascinating. The thing I was kind of really curious about was the bird, or what he sort of stopped thinking was a bird. Because I was thinking maybe Thunderbird, something like that. But then he seemed to think that it didn't actually move. It was in the shape of a bird, but it had no sort of motion to it. What do you think about that?
I think sometimes you can see something in the sky and your brain automatically says what it is. And it's only if you look at it longer that you begin to realise that actually the information your brain has just given you isn't right. And I would suggest that that's what you would do normally. So I remember years ago, I'm sure I've mentioned this, I caught something just out the corner of my eye, sat in my front room about 10 years ago. And I thought, bloody hell, that's weird. Really weird shape and everything. And I thought, what could that be? And so if I'd have not gone outside to watch it longer, I'd have gone, blimey, I've seen something really strange in the sky. But I went outside to watch it for as long as I could. And within about a minute or so, my eyes had focused enough for me to realise that it was a giant collection of balloons that had obviously been blown away from somewhere.
Right.
And so, you know, when you go to a fair or something, you'll see that enormous clump of balloons and for the kids, and you buy one for $1 or whatever and say,
Sure.
yeah, like that. And obviously it had become untethered somehow, and the wind had taken it, and it was just having a lovely old trip out into the Peak District. And it was fair wanging its way through the sky. So I wouldn't be surprised if other people that day saw it and didn't realise what was going on. But it was only because I stared at it and went outside to get a better look at it that I realised eventually what it was. But at first I just thought, what the hell is that? So I think sometimes you can, your brain will automatically say that must be that, and then when you get more information, it begins to realise it. So he may have presumed it was a bird or bird-shaped, and it was only when it started acting unlike a bird that he went, I don't think that is a bird.
Right. Yeah, because this is, to be clear, this is well before the advent of drones.
Oh,
so
yeah.
whatever flew in front of him was under its own power, but obviously was not a bird. So it seems...
I mean, ironically, there is several cases from later in the year from Cranbrook.
Really?
Halloween, ironically. There was a bit of a flap towards the end of the year in BC. It sort of started late August, and there were sporadic sightings into September, but there's a very well documented one on Halloween in Cranbrook in 1968.
I'll be damned.
Yeah, so you've got numerous witnesses reported seeing strange lights in the sky to the Hertzberg Institute of Astrophysics. There was another report taken at the same time, which was reported to the police, which kind of triangulated the original sighting. So you had 5 different reports on Halloween 1968 of people seeing. One witness said, I thought it was a meteor at first until it started flying backwards from where it had once been.
Backwards?
Yeah, so basically it went across the sky and then it reversed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be deeply unnerving.
And so you had 18 witnesses on Halloween in different parts of the area. So you were kind of giving it from different angles. So it gave it a better, like I say, triangulation. So you had people from different vantage points seeing the same thing.
And I mean, Cranbrook is closer to, again, Cranbrook is quite a distance away from Cache Creek, where this fellow was driving. But Cranbrook itself, is that whole area, like closer to Radium Hot Springs, is home to a lot of UFO sightings to the present day. Again, one of the things we're going to talk about later, if we have time, is was it John Musgrave, who was a UFO researcher, and he left his entire archive with the organization UFO BC. And it is just a vast compendium of sightings just in and around BC, dating back as far as 1863. And I was thinking too that there's the when I did Coast to Coast, we had someone call in, and this is years ago now, but we had someone call in about they were from the town of Fernie, and they had a similar experience to this thing with the car power being cut. And that is a relatively common feature of certain UFO sightings, is it not?
I mean, it's interesting, as cars have developed, that doesn't seem to happen as much. But yeah, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of reports of people seeing strange lights in the sky or strange objects. I mean, Leveland, which happened in the 50s, I think it was notable of that. You had that happen to 3 different cars, I think, where the lights were flying around, the cars broke down. The one thing people forget about the Flatwoods Monster case is that the first sighting was by a couple driving and their car broke down, and then Braxy appeared and shit them up, and then it went on to terrify the kids a little bit later on. But yeah, there's a famous case from Australia where their car broke down and the UFO picked their car up.
It picked it up? Jesus Christ, like how much are we talking? Are we talking like all the way up, or?
I think he picked it up and just, about 20 feet off the ground, I think it was.
Jesus Christ.
And that was in the outback as well. So there were nobody near at all. There is a very famous interview on YouTube you can find of that family, because it was a full family in a station wagon, I think. And they went on TV to talk about it and were just absolutely humiliated the host and the audience. So they haven't really
Jesus,
spoken
by the
about it
host.
since. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were just taking the piss out of him. Just
For
ripping him.
Christ's sakes.
But it's a very, very strange thing. And I think you got like mum, dad, and a couple of the kids.
If you're going to bring someone on your show to talk about this shit, either listen or don't. But don't bring them. I mean, I know this is just the way things are, but don't bring them on to mock them. Just seems like such douchebag behavior.
That's punching down, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Jesus, that's punching down and then stomping.
Yeah. So it happens. Not as much as it used to, but obviously cars are not the same. Cars are clearly manufactured in a completely different way. Most of them use different fuel. I mean, it might be something to do with the fuel, because obviously a lot of petrol in those days had lead in it, didn't it? Well, it still does, but certainly not to the level it has. So, I mean, there's a variety of things. But yeah, I think you don't tend to get a lot of car breaking down UFO happens next stories. Certainly not what they are. So I think there's certainly something gone on there. Because usually it's one of those things that people always say, oh, well, these are just tales of a tale, like your Men in Black or your abduction or your message from the stars or your environmental concern messages. But the motor vehicles stopping seems to be one of those that hasn't carried on into the modern era. But I don't think that's peculiar, because cars, a car from 1956 bears very little internal resemblance to a car that rolls off a production line now.
That's true, and I think that's something I've noted. Or that's something I've noticed when skeptics talk about how this phenomenon has evolved. They say, I noticed they're not taking people anymore. They're not probing people, or the cars don't break down. But I think you're right. I think technology evolves, and I don't think that's given enough. Like, I think for some reason people think these things are always going to be the same. Like UFO encounters in the 60s versus the 50s versus the 30s versus now. They're always going to be, it's always going to be the same thing. But nothing we do is static. Our society changes, our society evolves. So why wouldn't this phenomenon also evolve? It just kind of makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing that I think comes up a lot, is this idea that, there's way less, this stuff doesn't happen now that there's cell phones everywhere. But it does. And the number of times I've spoken to people, like you and me, that shit happened so fast, there was no time to record anything.
Yeah.
And most
Absolutely.
of the time when the shit's going down, your first thought is not, boy, I got to record this. It's, this doesn't make any fucking sense. This is deeply distressing.
I mean, I've said this many a times. If you see a wild animal somewhere and you try and capture a picture of it, 99 times out of 100, it's either just a blur or you get bugger all. We had a fox following us on a walk the other week, and it took me 17 attempts to take a picture of it. And it was 30 yards away from me.
Yeah.
The little bugger.
Just quickly before we close out, I had a situation like that yesterday morning. So I was out of my balcony having a coffee. It was morning. I had my headphones in, listening to a podcast. And of course, I've recently had the balcony cleaned. So, it's now relatively free of pigeon shit. Of course, the pigeons are not gone. The pigeons, one of the things I didn't mention when I first started talking about the pigeons when I came to this apartment, there was a lot of pigeon droppings already on the balcony when I moved in. The landlords hadn't cleaned it. So these pigeons have been roosting in this area for some time, so this is more of their balcony than it is mine. So I went out there, they were still out there. And so I just, again, I've reached equilibrium with them. I'll just clean up after them now as we go, as opposed to, sort of just ending up with the situation we had.
You have to get CSI in.
Oh, God, yeah. It was rough. And they didn't use any protection whatsoever. They just, these two 22-year-old girls, they have this cleaning company. They just went at it. And I'm like, isn't that, oh yeah, we have to sanitize everything. But the breathing, just face down, all fours cleaning. All right, man, to be 22 and think I'm immortal again. But anyway, so I'm out there and I wanted to take a picture of this pigeon that was kind of posing. I wanted to take a picture to send it to Nick. And so I'm kind of turning because I realize there's another pigeon on a lower level. So I want to get both in the shot. So I'm tilting my head. Well, I bought these headphones a little while back. The one thing they're not great at is staying in my fucking ears. So as I'm tilting my head, I feel the headphones start to slip. Now I've got phone in one hand, coffee in the other hand. This headphone starts to slip and I'm right near the edge. So obviously if I twist my body so that as it falls out, it at least won't fall over the balcony and won't fall near the edge and bounce off. Well, this does two things. One, scares the shit out of the pigeons. They fly off. Two, it covers me liberally in hot coffee. And the headphone just disappears. Just disappears completely. I have no idea where this goddamn thing has gone. I'm hunting around, cannot find it. The only thing I can think is there's about half a cup of coffee left. Maybe it fell in my cup of coffee. And this is a story of how I dumped out the rest of my freshly brewed cup of coffee to find out that no, the headphone had just bounced to the one spot underneath the balcony railing where you cannot see it unless you're exactly level with it. And so I'm sure my neighbors got a great view of me just looking like a prize ass, having what appear to be some kind of fit.
Yes, that's why I can't have earbuds, because I know I just lose them all the time. And I've seen enough videos of people taking their dogs to the vet and playing their phone, and you can hear music in the dog's tummy.
Oh no!
So yeah, I've got a nice chunky pair of Beats.
Fair.
If I lose them, I've been decapitated.
Well, at least then you know.
Yeah, exactly. Very cut and dried, that situation, I feel.
Missing time in mission. So far in my life, there have only been a handful of experiences that have made me question the planet Earth and what dwells upon it. Anything ranging from paranormal to just plain normal. But one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever encountered was with Gordy last summer, and to this day still makes me feel uncomfortable to talk about, because I genuinely cannot explain what happened on any logical level. We were driving to Mission, and on the way back I noticed I had forgotten something at the store. By this time we were in downtown Maple Ridge and had nothing else pressing to do, so we went back. It's about a 20-minute drive on the low-heat highway to Mission from where we were. The clock read 3:23 p.m. In an instant, the clock read 3:37 p.m. Gordy and I looked at each other, and he asked me, "What happened?" None of us remember the drive between Maple Ridge and Mission. We lost 15 minutes of our lives, and we have no idea where it went. All we know is that in between post A and B, nothing, or probably something, happened. Not a single word was said. The last thing we remember talking about is how Skyrim will never have a follow-up. Then, at the snap of a universal finger, 15 minutes gone. The rest of the ride was very quiet, and we were both very much on edge and uncomfortable. We have both experienced something completely unexplainable, but yet at the same time, we experienced nothing. In the grand scheme of things, 15 minutes seems inconsequential and minimal to the many minutes of our life. But when you can't account for it, it changes how you feel. My only explanation is that I passed through a wormhole and somehow ended up on the other side.
So this one takes us back closer to Vancouver, Mission, of course, being part of the Lower Mainland. But when I came across it, I'm always fascinated by missing time stories, so I really wanted to include it.
Yeah, I think someone's trying to... I find it incredible that somebody goes, well, the only explanation I could possibly think of is I've been through a wormhole. Really? Really?
Okay, so you don't think this one is quite as anomalous as you think it is, or as I think it is?
No, I think it's anomalous. I think they're trying to create a far calmer explanation for what may have happened to them.
I see. Right. Wormhole is nice and passive. There's nothing being probed.
Precisely. Have some regressive hypnosis and then tell me if you still think it's a wormhole.
Well, funny enough, we have a hypnosis story coming up.
So, yeah, it was quite funny. I've been speaking to John Olsen for an upcoming show, and he had a guy to share a story with him and asked him for an explanation about missing time. And so obviously John gave him the two main explanations in the Fortean world for it, and he wasn't having either of them.
Really?
No, it's not that. Can't be that. Can't be that. I've not been taken on a UFO. No. Anyway, thanks for your input.
Really? So he just shut it down?
He just didn't want to accept either explanation it could have possibly been.
What's the other?
The other one was basically like a time slip.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't accept either explanation. But it's a very strange story that you'll be able to hear on the upcoming episode with John as we dive into that. It's a very, very strange one. And I hadn't really considered the setting for being tied to UFOs until John kind of explained it. And I thought, actually, that does make a lot of sense. So it's a strange one, I'll say that. But the person who shared the story just didn't want to have either a time slip or an abduction as part of the explanation at all.
So what was his preferred explanation?
It was just very weird and he couldn't explain it, and that was that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's nonsensical to not think something super weird happened to him.
God, I'm so eager to hear this episode. Because missing time stories are probably one of my favorite paranormal phenomena.
It's a very odd one. It's a very odd one.
Damn it, Paul, I just want to know now.
The situation does not lend itself to UFOs until you look at it you take a step back and look at it and you think, actually,
That's similar to this situation here where when I found this post, it was in a larger thread. And one of the things that was commented was that the part about the low heat highway was mentioned further down. It wasn't part of the actual story. I just added it for the sake of brevity. But what was interesting is the person who originally asked them which highway it was on, because there were one or two possible routes they could have taken. And I thought it was noteworthy that the person described the other highway as being spooky. That, they said, well, I would expect it along there because that has a real vibe to it. The low heat highway is very busy. I never would expect to have something like this happen there. So it's kind of similar in that this is not a place you would think of, because I think the low heat highway is quite busy as well. You know, usually they talk about road hypnosis, but I mean, road hypnosis is something that tends to happen on empty roads where you're going like a static speed for a very long time.
Yep. Or driving through Lincolnshire, the flattest place on earth.
Yeah. It's like Western Idaho, Eastern Washington State. Yeah, no. So, like I say, that doesn't sound like what happened here.
No, it's not a wormhole. What? A wormhole landed perfectly on the road, and we came to on the same road, but we've been through a wormhole.
Talk about the lamest wormhole in the history of time. Jodie Foster got to go meet her dad on a faraway planet. You just got to go 20 minutes down the road on the low heat highway a little faster.
Perhaps you should have sent him to Mars, and we could have picked up a sample of that rock that NASA's announced today that they think proves that life was on Mars.
I saw that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yes, just plays into my theory of that we're panspermian origin.
And for folks who don't know, I was going to make a joke. It would have been terrible, so let's just move on. For the folks who are listening who don't know the theory of panspermia, can you share?
Yeah, it's that we're based on life from another planet that was on a meteor that hit the Earth, and the building blocks for DNA were included in that. It wouldn't surprise me, because it does seem very strange how certain things jumpstart on this planet's history. And for me, panspermia seems a very reasonable explanation, I think, personally.
For an example of this, check out that documentary Prometheus. The first few minutes will give you a great example of this.
I'm never watching that again. It's a film written by the Idiot Box Machine.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh, God. Honestly, just a bunch of wankers doing stupid things. Oh, look, there's Dave, and he's folded up like a deck chair. Quick, open the hatch, let him in. What? He's fucking folded up. That's clearly not Dave, unless Dave was known to fold himself up when he wanted a nap. Did they not mention this in the film? Does Dave sleep in a drawer? Does he?
Dave's one of the borrowers.
Lives on a beach? Does he? Oh no, everything seems fine here. Fuck off. Who's written this? A 3-year-old? Fuck me. Fucking, look, there's an enormous spaceship falling from the sky. I'll not run to the side it's not falling on. I'll just keep running in the direction it's falling in, because I'm sure I'm going to outrun an enormous spaceship as a human being. That's what he said to me. Oh, Alien Earth's really good. I'll never know, mate. Never know.
I was just about to say, I actually started watching Alien Earth, and I quite like it so far.
Well, good for you.
and in true, actually, speaking of Ridley Scott, because...
Do we have to?
Briefly, I watched because I really, even despite its flaws, I quite like Prometheus, and I watched the lengthy documentary that's on the Blu-ray release. And one of the things I noticed is that basically most of the boneheaded choices in the narrative of that film are completely down to Ridley. You know, he'll have this idea and he's like, no, we're gonna do this, and no one will listen. No, he won't listen to anyone else. And because he's Ridley Scott, he gets to make final call, and quite often he's wrong. Yes. Beautiful, like a sense of aesthetics, but his sense of story is pants. And I was reading that prior to Alien Earth becoming a thing, there was going to be another film in the Alien series directed by Neil Blomkamp.
Yes.
That was going to bring back Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. I was pretty stoked because I love Neil Blomkamp's work.
Yep.
And then Ridley kind of went, no, I think I want to make another movie. And I think that's when Covenant happened. So that was it. Blomkamp went on to make Gran Turismo, which was actually better than, a movie like that had any right to be. But he's recently done it again, apparently, because Alien Romulus, the sequel, was originally going to be directed by the same person, Fede Alvarez, who did the first. And he has dropped out of the project. And apparently the word is that he did this because he wanted to use David. He wanted to use the character of David in Romulus 2. And Ridley went, no, because I might want to make another Alien movie at some point. And so
Aren't they all Alien movies?
But he might want to use David. And obviously can't use David if he's turned up in someone else's story. So this got scotched. So David will not be in the film. Fede Alvarez has gone on to do something else, and Ridley Scott has fucked up yet another project, and this time someone else's.
Excellent. Well, at least he's consistent.
In the absence of quality, consistency.
Well, I suppose when you haven't made a decent film for 21 years, it's even longer, isn't it? It's 25 years since Gladiator came out.
Black Hawk Down was okay. Martian was fine.
Both not written by Ridley Scott, I'll point out.
But yes, so I so far I'm enjoying Alien Earth. I will update you if that changes, and I'm sure you'll be as interested then as you appear to be now.
Can't wait.
The Strange Case of the Red Light. Around 1983, we invited a group of friends to our home in Delta, BC, with the intention of trying to assist a lady who was puzzled by an incident that had taken place during her return from a holiday in the Chilcotins. She, her son, and a male companion had been approached by a red ball of light while driving along a road. They had lost all memory of events from that point on, until quite some time later. The purpose of our get-together was an attempt to recover, with the assistance of hypnosis, the unrecalled events lost during the UFO encounter. Present were myself, my wife, a friend of ours, the lady who experienced missing time, and, most important of all, our experienced hypnotist friend. The subject stretched out on our Chesterfield, with myself by her head holding a microphone with a tape recorder. Facing the subject, and positioned by her feet, was the hypnotist. My wife and our remaining female guest were sat facing the subject. Our red setter was locked in the kitchen. Initially, the hypnotist followed an established routine to set the subject at ease, before commencing his countdown to hopefully obtain a positive response from the subject. Events quickly indicated that the lady was responding in a predictable manner. After some time, the hypnotist suggested that she return to a possible previous life existence. Her response to this was to provide a description of events that suggested a frightening episode in the Middle East during a past century. As the hypnotist was bringing her back from this event to an already agreed-upon safe location, the lady looked up to her right, where only a window was located, and said, "There's a man here. He's telling me not to be afraid," and she was visibly shaking. Further questioning revealed that he was tall and dressed in a dark scuba diving type suit. As her fear was clearly apparent, our hypnotist friend made valiant efforts to return her to the haven of safety and bring her out of the hypnotic state. For some time she seemed not to hear him, or chose to ignore him. Needless to say, these events had created a degree of tension within the living room. Suddenly, without any warning, there was a thunderous knocking at our front door. Everyone jumped about a foot into the air. The dogs started barking. The only person who wasn't apparently startled was the lady on the Chesterfield. My wife went to the front door to see who was there at this late an hour. I should explain that our house, which had been built in 1902, had a steep staircase to the front door, which became easily slippery in the perpetual wet weather that BC offers. Consequently, we very seldom used it ourselves and discouraged others from doing so as well. Alternatively, we had a paved path to our back door, with good illumination from the driveway. This was our regular route into the house. During the 20 years we lived in this house, we only had about 2 people who ever came to the front door. This was one of them. On opening the door, my wife found a youngish man, dressed, she thought, rather inadequately for the damn cold fall weather. He was seeking directions to a street number that we knew did not exist locally. She suggested that he try further down, although it was not likely to be productive. With that, he renegotiated the dangerous steps and set off down the garden, even though my wife called out after him that he could not get out that way, as it was fenced off. He appeared not to hear her, and continued on into the darkness. She closed the door. By this time, our hypnotist friend had brought back the frightened lady to our present time. She seemed none the worse for her adventures. We all proceeded to discuss the night's events. When, some time later, we played the tape back, we could hear all that had taken place up to the arrival of the man in blue. That wasn't on the tape, nor was the thunderous knocking on the door. All this despite the fact my microphone was only 10 feet away from that door, and you could quite clearly hear our dog barking from 20 feet away, despite being behind a closed door. On reflection, it is interesting that this stranger arrived at the exact moment we were seeking information about the man in blue and the circumstances of his presence. Talk about synchronicity. Not only did this interruption serve to destroy our quest for further information, but we never were able to convene again to uncover those missing time events. And there's a follow-up story from a different poster, but it is similar, so I'm also going to read that here. It is called Triangles. This happened in the lower mainland area of BC. And just for clarification, this is in the similar region to the previous story. So, I mean, the lower mainland of BC is quite large, but, it is roughly the same area. The author goes on to say, the area is pretty densely forested, with the exception of some walking trails. They're fairly popular, but not popular enough that someone else would be there at the same time as you. No cell phone service either. An old boyfriend and I were the only ones there this day, and we had made it probably 5 minutes down the trail when we heard this obnoxiously loud, echoing mechanical noise in the distance. It's usually very quiet out there, with the exception of birds and the wind in the trees, so we stopped immediately to listen. It got louder and closer really fast. It's so difficult to describe what this noise was like. Extremely loud, like loudspeaker loud. It sounded like it was trying to mimic the sound of a bird squawking or some Jurassic Park dinosaurs or something, but it was too robotic and mechanical sounding to be anything alive. Then this glowing red thing shot out of the tops of the trees, and by this time the sound was deafening. The color reminded me of a glowing red stoplight. It was about the size of a hand, but kind of triangle-shaped. No wings or any other markings or features. It was darting back and forth from the treetops, landing on branch tips, then flying across to other trees with such speed and precision I couldn't keep my eye on it. Then it started dive-bombing my face, coming so close it almost hit me, then flying back up into the tops of the trees, then back down at my head within literal seconds. A second and maybe third one of these things came out of the trees, and all started doing the same thing. It was hard to tell how many because of how loud and echoey the noises they made were. I could feel how close they were to touching me. My hair was literally being whipped around by how fast they were. It all felt very aggressive. My boyfriend had run back down the trail and had apparently been screaming at me to run the entire time, but I hadn't even noticed or heard. After about 30 seconds of this attack, they all flew straight up into the sky and away into the trees. I could hear them in the distance for a bit, then never again. We waited there for hours, phones out, ready to record, waiting for them to come back, but they never did. I've returned a handful of times since then, waiting in that same spot, but they've not returned. So I would have written off this stuff completely, if not for the fact that you described Paul Sinclair and one of his groups seeing lights come out of the earth. So I'm really curious to get your take on this, because again, I would have thought this sounds pretty unlike anything I've read,
But again, within the last couple of months, you've mentioned that Paul and one of his groups have seen something not unlike this. So maybe it's not as unlikely as I thought. What do you think?
Well, there are several things, really, because there is a growing belief in earth lights as well.
Okay.
There is a train of thought that sometimes they are seen above earthquakes and fault lines. So some people believe that there may be some kind of discharge from the earth, some form of energy being released with all that friction and enormous power going on beneath the surface. And maybe that's causing something to happen. You've got numerous sites around the world known for strange lights that seem to appear out, either out of the ground or out of the sea, regardless of the explanations for the Brown Mountain lights, because the stories predate the invention of the car, despite what skeptics would like you to think, that they're all very easily explainable. I mean, I've seen footage of the Brown Mountain lights where it's clearly on the mountain, you're not looking at it from somewhere else. You can see it's on the mountain. It's not near the mountain. It's in there. It's in the woods. It's in the trees. That's not a reflection of a car's headlights. And if it is, why are they going up in the air? And why are they different colours? I mean, probably the best example is Hessendalen in Norway, which I don't know what's happening there. I don't know what that is. It's amazing. It's incredible. Some of the footage that's been caught over the years in Hessendal is just jaw-dropping. But is it just some kind of geological reaction, as I say, that's linked to fault lines and internal pressures under the Earth's crust? I don't know. But it is interesting that you don't get many UFO sightings where you or things like this where you see them sort of come up out of the ground, like they've emerged from a hatch or a burrow or something. But there's hundreds of stories of people seeing lights coming out of the water. Obviously, Shag Harbour, famously, there was a light went into the water. So it happens. It's been reported. But once again, it's not an overly common reaction or sighting that people have, but they do go on. I mean, like the Min Min lights are another example of that. But they seem to be the strangest ones because they chase people. Like they're playing with them.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I mean, the lady I've spoken with who shared her story, why would it follow them? What's going on there?
I mean, if they are purely electrical, I guess maybe you could theorize that they are attracted to our electrical field somehow.
Well, maybe, of course, yes, absolutely. Or maybe they're a type of alien that is purely a form of electric. Why wouldn't it be? It's just intriguing because we don't know what it is, but to simply poo-poo it based on our limited experience and knowledge in this particular field, I think would be foolish and churlish, and is often the problem we have with skeptical explanations, because it's very black and white. And I think when it comes to things like this, there's a lot more grey than black or white. I mean, the main story, Men in Blue, it would seem then. So we've got the away kit.
Yeah, the scuba suit. I mean, I was thinking that's weird, but then I was thinking back to some of the other, I mean, we've said UFO a lot. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but I think we tend to find these visitations most often in UFO lore. And I think it's like, there's lots of stories, even I know there are lots of stories about men in suits, not just like three-piece suits, but kind of jumpsuits or things like that.
Broadhaven, the big flap here, where everybody only concentrates on what the school kids saw, which the council tried to explain as a recycling lorry that they didn't understand what it was. What, flying in the sky, mate? Really?
Jesus, that's weak.
I mean, one of the sightings there was people seeing a 7 to 8 foot tall, what they described as a spaceman walking around in a silver suit. There are several sightings where people describe seeing what they believe to be aliens. It looks like they're wearing a wetsuit. Even like the old-fashioned, you remember the old-fashioned deep-sea diving suits where they got the big helmet on and the weighted boots and all that. There's dozens of those where people like describing it as looking like oily rubbery stuff. Spring-Heel Jack was described as wearing like a kind of oilskin suit.
Yeah. So this is all of a piece. Like, again, this is one of those things where I was like, okay, maybe it's not as crazy as it seems.
Absolutely. Why? I mean, this is the thing. If you have the concept that you believe aliens are visiting this planet, and we have a variety of different sighted ships of all sizes and colours, why would the occupants all be the same?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm more on the side. Like, I'm not a big fan of the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I tend to think that we're dealing with something that has always been here. You know, in most cases, I think you're kind of dealing with, like, whether you want to call them extra dimensional or the good folk or whatever you want to call them. I tend to think we're dealing with something. This is me. I tend to think we're dealing with something that's more local. But it's the same though, right? Like, why would they all be dressed the same? And I kind of wonder if, you know, what we describe as oilskin or wetsuits or whatever, if much like the flannel, if it's us putting something onto a phenomenon we can't identify,
or it's doing it to us,
or it's being sort of put an image that's pushed onto us as well. Yeah, it could very well be.
So I don't know. It's a strange one. I like the ones where it's not the usual. You know, it's not a grey tapping on window going hello.
Yeah, I'm a fan of those.
You know, or dancing around with Whitley Strieber.
Funny you mentioned Whitley, actually. I was thinking about this the other day. So the night when I quietly asked the, you know, looming presence in the corner to stop being so weird, I watched the film Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Yeah. So great movie. Very creepy movie.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was it was all shot in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And in the establishing scene, we see that Jessica likes to do grave robbings. And they show a number of images of just random random tombs around that cemetery, random gravestones around that cemetery. And a number of them bore the likeness of something that looks not unlike how people describe graves. And I was thinking about this because one of the things Soraya says over on Where Did the Road Go is he says that typically, you know, it seems like mostly reports of graves really seem to have started with Whitley. And he, you know, according to him at least, have really only proliferated in places where that book was published, where communion kind of became popular. And I was thinking, looking at those photos, I actually went and found the cemetery on Find a Grave, and I was looking at some of those stones. Those stones date back to the 17th century. So, and some of them have that look, and obviously it's meant to be memento mori. It's meant to be like just skull art. But some of them are so specifically triangular with kind of the long face. I think it's hard to ignore. And you wonder, is that like a subconscious image that's just part of us? Is that representative of something we've seen? You know, I mean, did Whitley see these things, and is that where his conception of the graves came from? I
don't know, because, I mean, the stories of Roswell predate communion.
Okay, so I didn't realize graves were part of the Roswell story until after.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The small bodies of the graves were being talked about in the late 70s.
Okay.
And Betty and Barney Hill described their captors as what we would consider to be greys as well.
Right. Okay.
So they are there. There are plenty of reports. I think it's easy to say that communion opened the floodgates for them, but there's enough reports pre-communion to suggest that it wasn't Whitley's invention.
Okay. Well, again, it makes me wonder if some of this memento mori stuff, if it's referencing like sort of a mass unconscious, like a kind of Jungian archetype, or because like I said, I believe that death and, you know, what we call UFOs and you know, visitors, I think it's all kind of part of the same continuum. So I wonder if there's some kind of crossover there. So if like this sort of visitor became emblematic, a part of memento mori, because it is associated with that bridge between life and death.
I mean, a lot of people have also said, I'm trying to think, I can't remember what he called it, but Aleister Crowley obviously did that famous drawing in about, I don't know, when was it, 1908? Was it Lamb?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if he claimed that this deity came to visit him and it was called Lamb, Lam. And people have tried to suggest that that's where the greys come from. But I think you're giving Crowley far more reach than he ever achieved in his life, really, I think. I don't think that many people outside of our fields know who the hell Aleister Crowley was.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that dude, and I think you're right. I think people ascribe way more ability and sort of influence to him. Honestly, whenever someone starts talking to me about Crowley, I'm like, okay, I need to get out of this party.
Yeah, he was just an alcoholic, sex-addicted shithouse who pretended he was a magician.
100%. Yeah, no, that's very much my feel about Crowley as well. And like, hey, you want to be an alcoholic, sex-addicted shithouse, go for it, but I'm not going to pretend like you're a wizard. Our last story for tonight is called The Phantom of Highway 1. And I found this on the website folklore.bc.ca, but it apparently originates with the book Ghosts 2, More True Stories from British Columbia by author Robert C. Bellick. It was apparently published out of Victoria in 1997. So, of course, all credit to the original author, who says, in the spring of 1975, John and Janice Bradley left Vancouver to visit John's brother, Dave, and his wife, Judy, who were living in Kamloops. The decision to go had been made at the last minute, and it was not until after dinner that they finally loaded their suitcases into the trunk of their automobile and got underway. For the young couple, the trip was particularly exciting, for neither John nor Janice had ever been to Kamloops. Although there was a chill in the air, it was a beautiful night for a romantic moonlit drive. They reached Hope a little before midnight and took the North Fork along Highway 1 that follows the eastern edge of the Fraser Canyon. They had planned to stop for the night at the small town of Spence's Bridge, beyond the end of the canyon, but in the few motels scattered along the highway, all the lights were out. John and Janice had little choice but to push on to the junction town of Cache Creek, where they were sure a motel room would be available. By now, it was after 1 a.m., and there was almost no traffic on the road. Even the drivers of the big transport trucks had pulled over to get a few hours' sleep. The couple had been on the road more than 3 hours, but they were not particularly tired. The view of the glittering night sky in this part of British Columbia kept them awake. John was behind the wheel as they approached the brow of a small hill about halfway between Spence's Bridge and the turnoff to Ashcroft. Along one side of the road, Janice noticed a number of shacks, obviously abandoned. No lights were visible in the windows. The walls leaned crazily in one direction or the other, and on most, the roof seemed to be falling in. Suddenly, their high beams illuminated the back of a woman walking along the edge of the highway. As they drew closer, John and Janice could see she was short, with black hair cut bluntly above her shoulders. Janice estimated that she was less than 5 feet tall. Her clothes did not look like anything John or Janice had seen before. She wore short, dark pants that came down only as far as her calf, and a dark vest over a puffy-sleeved white blouse. On her feet, she had flat, black shoes. Even though it was a beautiful night, it seemed strange to Janice that the woman was out in this lonely spot without a coat. The way she was walking was also unusual. She was moving quickly, taking short, mincing steps with her elbows bent, and her arms swinging rapidly back and forth. Janice's first thought was that the woman had had car troubles and was forced to walk for help, but she hadn't noticed any vehicles parked at the side of the highway. Another possibility, Janice reasoned, was that her car had slid off the road and was now out of sight. "Pull over closer to the shoulder, John," Janice said, "and I'll see if she needs help." As John drew up beside the walker, Janice rolled down her window. "Excuse me, madam," she began. "Do you need—" The woman jerked her head in their direction. The movement of the head was strange, as though the motion was not altogether human. The face, which was as white as porcelain, lacked eyebrows, but was defined by a mouth twisted into a vicious snarl and eyes so electrifying that Janice was later unable to find words to describe their appearance. The pupils were incredibly large and darker than anything she had ever seen. Both John and Janice were sure that whatever it was they were looking at was not human. John uttered an oath, pushed his foot down on the gas pedal, and the automobile sped away. Janice quickly turned around to look out the rear window, but no one was there. The woman seemed to have vanished. John didn't slow down until he could see the light of Ashcroft in the distance. "What the hell was that?" he finally said. Janice had no idea. As we mentioned, that's our last story. And although we do have one more bonus story, but what I was thinking with this one, Paul, is we're going to set aside the racism that I cut out of the story that I'm not going to include. The person telling the story thought perhaps this is someone of a different ethnicity that I just wasn't aware of, which is fucking insane. You know, like the snarling monster. Oh, where are you from? No, like originally. Oh, yeah, no, but like before that, like, you know, really from. Jesus Christ. But I was thinking, yeah, there's been this unexpected undercurrent through this show of these sort of visitors from another plane or from another place. And I think this is up there with Missing Time as the thing that unnerves me most, because it just sort of forces you to confront this idea that it's not just us running around this place.
I think that's the strangest thing sometimes, that, you know, as you touched on earlier on, you were about not subscribing that wholeheartedly to the extraterrestrial theories. But is not the concept that we're sharing this with things we can't see or understand scarier?
Oh, I think it's, well, I think they're equally scary, almost. Yeah, because in one of them, you've got a culture with vastly superior technology who can come to our planet like we go somewhere looking for groceries.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that. And they can also apparently appear and disappear at will. And then in the other one, you've got a race of super beings or even just beings who live alongside us, who we can't see, but they can see us, and who can access us pretty much, it seems like, whenever they feel like it, and we can't do shit to them. And so I think they're equally upsetting.
I think we're catching up with technology, though, because I remember at the conference at the weekend, they were showing a still from Expedition Bigfoot, where they use LiDAR in the surrounding area, and it picks up something that's not visible on anything else.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to confess ignorance here. What does LiDAR stand for?
Oh, Christ. Now you've asked me. I didn't invent it, mate. I'm sorry.
Let me check here. Light detection and ranging. Okay, so what are they seeing that's not turning up on regular cameras?
It was an 8-foot hulking shape stood behind a tree in the dark.
Fuck?
That didn't show up on infrared or thermal.
Oh, that's upsetting. And where did they capture this footage?
I believe that was caught in Oregon. It's not far.
Fascinating. So has there been much study done via LiDAR? It can't be much.
No, it's the first time I'd seen the image at the weekend, actually. So I hadn't seen it, but it is quite, yeah, there's definitely something there, because you can see the light reflecting off it. And it's distinctly jutting out from behind a tree, and then obviously you see the other images of infrared and normal. There's nothing there. There's nothing that could be giving that off. It just doesn't show. But then you switch to LiDAR and it appears. Was it a glitch? Seems very specific, because it wasn't glitching out when they panned round anywhere else. And you would suggest if it was a glitch, surely it would keep repeating it, no?
Well, one would think. I mean, what did the anomaly do?
It just stood there. Well, they weren't aware of it. It was only when they realised what was going on that they noticed there was even something, because there had been strange noises and hoops and bangs and stuff. And so they were just scanning the area just to check, and that's when it appeared.
Oh, so it was in reviewing the footage afterwards that they found it?
I believe so, yes.
Interesting.
And they'd come close to check them out, and then thought, nah, they're all right. No threat here, I'm off.
The other subcurrent to this episode, just stay out of the woods, guys. just don't do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to John, he's got, we talk about a particular, he's got a few stories in his latest book that are not good adverts for hiking and camping. I'll say that. There's one very odd story about a creature that's described as being inky black. It's like a big sort of faceless, emotionless figure that's described as being as black as jet ink sprayed across white printer paper. It's that black, shiny black.
I mean, so essentially a shadow person.
but seemingly a lot sharper.
Oh, okay.
And no
Almost
hat.
like a figure cut out of the dark.
Yeah, but this is in the day.
Oh, and where was it sighted?
Idaho.
Well, if it was going to be anywhere.
There are strange things around us, and I'm not sure what the ignition is for them to be visible, wherever they are. So it's very odd, because I haven't heard many encounters of things like that. It's something that I've not really read much about, these kind of jet black shapes. I mean, it chased them out the woods.
Jesus Christ. That doesn't happen in this cocktail bar, folks. Just doesn't. Just doesn't. Even most shitty bars, you're gonna get chased out, but you're gonna know what you're getting chased out by. It's a methed up guy named Dave. That's that's manageable. So that's gonna do it for our Haunting of BC episode, our supernatural British Columbia episode. And again, folks, this is just a fraction of the high strangeness we have found. Like I said, there was a whole section we had to drop on just massive UFO history of John Musgrave. I'll try and put that into maybe a patron bonus. I know we try to do more of the ghost stuff than the UFO stuff, but like I said, I think the two things are related, and there is certainly a lot of both in British Columbia. And I will say also, that last story, that came from, as we mentioned, Robert Bellick's book, Ghosts 2. I think he's written about 8 books about hauntings in BC. So if you like that, you can find more by searching for his stuff online. I think a lot of them are out of print, but you can get them pretty cheap, secondhand, if you want a collection of ghost stories from all around British Columbia. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our Ghost Force shoutouts. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123, or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories, Tanya Downing, who helps manage our Facebook community, Sarah Kent, who helps manage our Reddit community.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I'm delighted to welcome back the wonderful John Olson as we dive into the latest book in his Stranger Bridgerland series, which features a collection of very creepy stories. I must admit, a couple gave chills up my spine reading them, including the one we mentioned earlier about the inky black thing hanging, harassing campus. But also, John shares an incredible story. His father recently passed away 6 or 7 weeks ago, which it wasn't a complete shock. He'd been receiving hospice care for quite a while. But John tells a story that I hope if you listen to the episode will make you sit up and pay attention, because we're talking about someone passing. And John very candidly shares this incredible story with me, which is incredible, really. And that's all I'll say about it. So it's anybody who's interested in phone calls from the dead or NDEs or people getting messages from the other side, this is one of them that is well and truly in the centre of that particular phenomenon. And doesn't make much sense what happens. So, see what you think.
All right. Well, I always enjoy your conversations with John. I think John is a fascinating guy with a lot of... He always has great stories. I really like John Olson, so I'm looking forward to that. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media sites and all good podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere fine podcasts live. As we said at the top of the show, we couldn't do this. Without our patrons, without you fine folks, this machine simply would not go. And if you would like to get access to bonus shows, extra conversations between myself and Paul, early ad-free release, live shows, and way, way more, follow the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Or become a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. And of course, if you become a patron at the $20 level and above, that makes you part of an elite club. That makes you part of a little something we like to call Ghost Force. That's right. Patrons at the $20 level and above are part of Ghost Force. This time around, the members of Ghost Force are...
Ethan Saragon,
Amy Chamberlain,
Charles Wood,
Crazy Mom Canada,
CT,
Dexterous,
Eric Abel,
Gabrielle Hollanders,
Hannah Brown,
Jade Moores,
Janani Bananani,
Johnny Bonanani, Johnny Bonanani, Jason R. Slaughter,
Jennifer Mullen,
Jessica Dunphy,
Joseph Como,
Kissing Kate Barlow,
Liam Hudak,
Mara Noriega,
Mark Semler,
Merlin Hansen,
Michelle Randall,
Peter Gunn 08.5,
Robin Teen,
Ruckin' Ronnie Shenanigans,
Scrapbot 13,
Shannon Steyer.
Trent Cannon.
You are the few. You are the spooky. You are Ghost Force. Folks, we appreciate all our patrons, but Ghost Force, you guys are nuts, and we love you for it. If you want to have your name read out there every second story episode, that's once a month. Here on Ghost Story Guys, sign up at patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I guess that's going to do it.
Well, we'll be back next week, unless I contract the plague. But until then...
I'm going to insure Paul. And then, into the darkness we go. He actually sent me a DM on Instagram. He's like, hey, man, I don't really listen to your show, but I just think it's funny that I saw your meme and like a member of my German MP had liked it. And I noticed she follows you.
Surprised I hasn't reported a Chicago Mothman sighting.
My Mothman sighting lives in Canada. You wouldn't know her.
It all comes from the same ISP that's attached to my house. Anyway, move on.